Online students, am I audible? That is. So in last class we were talking about last topic क्या पढ़ा था? Marriage. Huh? Polyandry. Okay. Types of marriage. Okay. So we'll see the laws of marriage. So in laws of marriage, there are some specific laws that we are supposed to read. First one is endogamy, and it's better to write endogamy and exogamy together. Okay, because none of them exist in isolation. Endo and exo. Second is hypergamy and hypogamy, and the last is incest taboo. These are the specific laws of marriage: endogamy, exogamy, hyper and hypogamy, and incest taboo. So the first one, that is endogamy and exogamy. So we all are aware that endogamy means marrying in one's own group. Okay, so that group can be at the level of caste, subcaste, varna, or religion, or ethnicity. Okay, so this can be the group: caste, subcaste, varna, religion, or ethnicity. These groups usually endogamy or endogamous relationship exist at this level only. Then there are certain other types of endogamous relationship which is called as royal endogamy or blue blood marriages. Okay. So it is we have seen this case like wherein the son of the chief or the head will be marrying the eldest daughter. So because in order to preserve the purity of blood. Okay. So now why this endogamous marriages they are promoted, or why endogamy has become one of the major rules of or law of the marriage. So here if we see, the major reason for this is that it promotes unity and solidarity in the group. Okay, by exchange of women. So unity and solidarity in the group. Now in the initial time when there was so much of warfare, it helped to preserve secrets and weaknesses of the group. So if a group member goes outside the group, so that person might reveal the secret or the weakness of the group. So occupational guilds were there. So occupational guilds means those who expertise or those who were having an expertise knowledge over certain kind of crafts. In that case, the knowledge had to be preserved. Knowledge has to be kept, means their USP had to be kept secret. Else their occupational USP will go away, the monopoly will go away. In order to make sure that they started creating or having endogamous relationship. And this is one of the theory of caste formation also. It's a theory that was given by Nesfield, that is occupational theory of caste formation, who suggested that due to this reason, endogamous groups were formed to preserve the strengths and secrets and weaknesses of a group. And that ultimately carved in the form of caste system in India. One of the reasons for origin of caste system. Okay, that is to preserve the secrets and weaknesses of the group. Now, there are other reasons also, for example, that is to preserve the property. So they do not want to distribute the property. In that case, marry within one group. Okay. Next is exogamy. Exogamy means marrying outside one's group. Okay, but you need to understand that endogamy and exogamy do not exist. Do exist together. Endogamy at one level means caste level, you perform endogamous relationship or marriages, while exogamy at the gotra level. Okay, so endogamy and exogamy are not mutually exclusive, but they coexist together. So आप अपनी caste में शादी करोगे, but outside your gotra, or you will be marrying inside your religion, but outside your gotra. So this is endogamy and exogamy coexisting together. So at certain level you will be following endogamy, and at certain level you will be following exogamy. You will always marry outside your family, definitely, but in your caste or in your religion. So this is exogamy. Now exogamy, the major reason or the major groups that we follow, for example in North India, that is we follow gotra exogamy. Then we also follow in North India village exogamy, that a girl or a boy will never marry a person, boy or girl, from his or her own village. Although this is not prevalent in southern part of India, but in northern part of India it's very common. Okay, village exogamy is there. Even in a city also you will find marriage considered to be taboo, or it's not a well accepted idea. People Delhi, it's possible that somebody might be marrying a girl from Delhi. Okay, who might be both might be living in Delhi from long, but both शादी करेंगे. But in UP and Bihar you will never find, or you will rarely find, boys and girls belonging to the same city and marrying. बहुत rare होगा. It's like and village level it's next to impossible. It's not possible at all, because entire village is considered to be the brother and sister. I might have told you that entire for a particular son-in-law, the entire village considers him as the son-in-law. पूरे गांव का पहुना होता है वो. So there are a lot of stories, folk tales, folk songs that are made to welcome the damad of the entire village when that particular son-in-law enters into the village. Several folk songs are there. Okay, so there are several groups beyond which, or in that group, you are not supposed to marry, and there are several reasons for exogamy. So one very funny or trivial reason that was given by Herbert Risley. Herbert Risley was an administrator when in India by British administration. So Herbert Risley said that exogamy actually is practiced because of desire for varieties. You basically, or a particular person, say a male, desires variety. So he has grown up in a particular group. He has seen all kinds of wives there. Okay, all kinds of women and all. So in order to seek variety, he will prefer to marry somebody outside the group. Okay, just like this. The desire to have variety, has led the individuals seek ties with strangers. Then there is another funny story that is by Westermark, who suggests that ऐसा नहीं है कि मतलब funny story बता रहा हूं तो आदमी फालतू थे. They were respected anthropologists. Okay, so Westermark, he was having a haircut in a salon, and he asked the barber, "Are you married?" He suggested, "No, I'm not." So he suggested, "Why don't you get married? You have so many beautiful girls in your village." So he says that I have seen them all, and I don't find them interesting. So on a similar note, he also uh, actually inspected a school in London. So there was a co-ed school, opposite to which there was a girls' school. Okay. Now the boys of the co-ed school always tried to impress the girls of the girls' school, girls only school. So he had an interview with the boys of co-ed school, asking them, "Why don't you try on the girls of your own school rather than trying to impress the girls of the girls only school?" So they gave a reply very similar to what the barber said, that we have seen them all and we don't find them interesting. Okay, so he says that there is a general tendency to bring a partner that generates curiosity among the other members of the family or other member of the native place. So गांव में basically there is an intention to bring some partner who will create curiosity, who will make other people raise their eyebrows. They want to know, and that's why that is how a man feels that he has accomplished the task. And for that case, he always tries to get a partner that will raise curiosity, just like this. हाँ, आप नहीं, this is something आप समझो कि this is actually मतलब आप सोचो कि ये सब चीजों को एक आदमी हम जैसे लोग इग्नोर कर देंगे हंसी मजाक में, बट इंटेलिजेंट तो वो है कि जिसने इसकी बात की थ्योरी बना दिया, एंड सी वी आर रीडिंग अबाउट इट a lot to give theory at that point of time, and he had a lot of aura at that point of time that whatever he says, Westermark specifically, will be taken no less than theory. Okay, just like this. According to Westermark, it is the instinct in man. It is the instinct in man to look for a girl, who generates curiosity, Such a man is considered heroic. Such a man is considered heroic who brings a girl from great distance. Okay. Now, another scholar, Audrey Richards, she says that it's the constant scarcity of food that was the reason for exogamy. How? Constant scarcity of food led to female feticide, and due to which there was a shortage of women in a group, which led to the phenomena of bride capture, and finally which resulted into or formalized into exogamy. Okay, so shortage of food, female feticide, shortage of women, bride capture, which finally ended up as exogamous relationship. Okay, one more scholar, last, Levi-Strauss. We have read about him. Remember Levi-Strauss? So what exogamy will do? Exchange of women, and that would create social relationship. Remember gift? If friends make gift make friends. So based on which he suggested, he gave an alliance theory. So it will create sister exchange, will create confederations, and that would build the kinship systems. अगर आप लोगों को याद हो, incest taboo is a pre-social pact. So it's something that used to or that created a system of exchange, and by this system of exchange, confederations were built up. Political alliances were shaped up. Okay, due to this exogamy, just like this. Exogamy brought several groups together. It created political alliances and promoted trade. By exchange of women, people built stronger and larger social networks. It also helped to reduce or resolve conflict between the groups. The conflict between the group. Okay. The next one is hyper and hypogamy. See, hypergamy and hypogamy usually are the terms that are used with respect to Indian marriage system, but we can use it universally also. You'll understand how. So here in this case, hypergamy, a woman can marry a man of higher caste. Okay. And if this is happening, it is called as hypergamy. That is marriage of a woman with a man of higher caste. But if a woman marries a man of lower caste, this is called as hypogamy. Okay, it is prohibited. The marriage of woman to a man of lower caste is prohibited, while the marriage of woman to a man of higher caste is allowed. This is called as, in Hindi, it is called as anulom, and hypogamy is called as pratilom. So pratilom is prohibited, it's forbidden, while anulom is allowed. Hypergamy is allowed, while hypogamy is prohibited. ठीक है. Now, अब आप ये समझो कि in several Manusmriti and several Dharmashastra, this act or these kind of things have been mentioned. But just to bring some aspect of it, means several Orientalists or several liberal scholars, they have tried to project Indian history or Indian past, ancient India, as a dark age for women, or as a time when there was a very traditional conservative society and all that stuff, and try to glorify the modernity. But just to tell you, although we criticize Manusmriti, we criticize several Dharma Shastra, Manusmriti, burning the Manusmriti has become more or less like a trend. It actually started from Baba Saheb Ambedkar, and it has now become a trend for social activists कि कुछ नहीं मिला तो मनुस्मृति जला देंगे. Okay, but tell me one kingdom in ancient India who declared Manusmriti as its official law book. Any one kingdom. That's a book, it's written. But any one kingdom do you know who says कि Manusmriti was the law book that they are following? You have read almost every kingdom, Mauryas, Guptas, Nandas. किसी ने भी मनुस्मृति को अपनी official law book बताया है कि मनुस्मृति से गवर्नमेंट होती थी वहाँ पे, people had to follow Manusmriti and all. Was it like that? Okay, let me ask you another question. In IPC or CRPC, the criminal codes, whatever we follow right now, do we know any law against cannibalism? Do you know any section against cannibalism? किसी ने सुना हो कभी कि cannibalism के लिए law है हमारे पास? Why is it so? Why there is no law on cannibalism? Why don't we hear about it? I'm coming to a logical conclusion. Just tell me. Practice नहीं हो रहा है ना? तो तभी तो कोई law नहीं है. Nobody practices cannibalism, and that's why it's not talked about. There is no law about it, isn't it? मतलब जिसके laws हैं, for example, we have a law or punishment against murder, rape, and all that phenomenon. That means they are happening around us. So if Manusmriti was writing about prohibition of hypogamy or hypergamy and all that stuff, तो इसका मतलब है उस समय भी hypogamy चल रही होगी. And there was a age-old man who, in his assumption or in his idea of an ideal society, wrote that this is a kind of deterioration. It should not happen. क्योंकि वो बुढ़ापे में देख रहा होगा ये सब हो रहा है, society किस तरफ जा रही है. So he wrote that this should not be written. This should not be done, performed. That means intercaste marriages were common. And it was his assumption of some kind of an ideal society that such acts of a woman marrying a person of lower caste should not happen. अगर ऐसा होता कि वो चीजें नहीं हो रही होती, तो why was there a need to write about it? What's the reason for writing it? That means such practices were very common हो रही थी, and it was not ideal as per the point of view of the one who have written the Dharma Shastra or one who have written the Manusmriti. इसके लिए उसने लिखा कैसे मत करो. Okay, the same logic goes like कि cannibalism के बारे में हम क्यों बात नहीं करते, क्योंकि होता ही नहीं है. होता होता तो हम बात करते हैं. There would have been some law. So this is a kind of discourse that is अभी recently चल रहा है among right wing, that the ancient societies were projected in a very bad light by the historians who were trained in British school and who basically tried to project, or means they were more or less evolutionist in their mindset, that modernity will bring progress and society with time has always progressed. The way of life that we have right now is far better than what we used to have in the past. और ancient से progress करके medieval में आए, medieval से progress करके हम modern हो गए. But that's not the case. The society was very open, very liberal in ancient India, as per a section of the historians that are now rising up and saying this. And this is one of the logic that I found very logical. कि मुझे लगा कि हाँ सही बात है. If they are talking about it, that means these kind of incidences used to happen there. Else there is no point of talking about it. Okay, and none of the book was declared as an official book or official law book of any of the Hindu kingdom in ancient India. That means none of the ruler was so strict or so conservative to impose such law books or such literature as the official law book. Okay, so here in this case, due to this hypogamy, the prohibition of hypogamy, we see certain incidences. The one is the case of a Brahmin community of Bengal, Kulin Brahmins. Among Kulin Brahmins, they are said to be one of the purest, not one of the purest of all the Brahmins, or the purest of all the castes in Bengal. Okay, now in this case, the man is at the top of the ritual hierarchy. Any girl can desire to marry this man. But what about the girl here? This girl in the Kulin Brahmin do not have any choice to marry above the caste group. तो किसी ऊपर का caste group कोई है ही नहीं, hierarchy में, ritual hierarchy में. Okay, in such a case, the girl has to pay a lot of dowry in order to marry a boy from the Kulin Brahmin. So dowry rates are very high because the lower caste girls or women are also interested to marry the higher caste man. Dowry rates are very high. Due to this reason, the birth of a girl is considered to be a curse among the Kulin Brahmins. And if a girl is born, it is they either have to opt for polygynous marriage, okay, that man can have multiple wives, or they choose spinsterhood because they are not financially well off to pay the dowry. Okay, so due to this high dowry, the marriages are either polygynous and or they opt for spinsterhood. Okay, so this is hyper and hypogamy related to caste system and mainly used in India only, but there is a hyper and hypogamy with respect to class also. Okay, that if a boy or if a girl marries somebody from a higher class, it will be called as hypergamy. And if somebody marries, or if a girl marries somebody from a lower class, then hypogamy. Class level पे भी देख सकते हैं, means अपने कैटेगरी से ऊपर या नीचे की तरफ शादी को hyper या hypogamy कहेंगे when seen with respect to a female. Okay, so when a female marries somebody from higher class or caste or whatever category that she belongs to, even in modern anthropology, we basically also look at the physical features also. So if a girl marries somebody who has greater height, it also should be considered as a hypergamy. उससे ज़्यादा लंबा है. And if a girl marries somebody who is having lesser height, then it should be considered as a form of hypogamy. But this definition has been broadened. In most of the textbooks, you will find only caste-related hyper and hypogamy idea. But in the present modern textbooks, we are also talking about class and also physical features. Okay. Now the last one. मतलब वुमेन को सेंटर पॉइंट पे रख के अगर वो अपने ग्रुप से ऊपर मैरिज कर रही है, करेगी तो शादी मैन से ही, तो देन दिस काइंड ऑफ मैरिज विल बी कंसीडर्ड. तो कंफ्यूजन हो जाएगा ना, मैन वुमेन के रिस्पेक्ट में देखोगे तो एक केस में हाइपर है, दूसरे केस में हाइपर हो जाएगा. अलाउड होते नहीं है. मतलब आज के टाइम पे तो हाइपोगेमी यूजुअली प्रोहिबिटेड है काफी ज्यादा लोअर कास्ट में, एंड जिसकी वजह से आप देखो ना कि हाइपोगेमी अगर कोई करेगा, वुमेन इफ दे डू दे एंगेज इन हाइपोगेमी, इट माइट लीड टू ऑनर किलिंग आल्सो. When a girl of higher caste marries somebody from lower caste, the honor of the caste is gone, and for that to restore the honor, usually we experience the phenomena of honor killing. How do we? अरे जबरदस्ती सेम सेक्स मैरिज का आइडिया क्यों लगाना है? हाइपोगेमी नॉर्मल मैरिज मतलब नॉर्मल इन द सेंस मेल और फीमेल हेटेरोसेक्सुअल मैरिज की बात कर रहे हैं. हाँ, मेल को मेल के केस में हाइपोगेमी की बात ही नहीं है ना. When I'm talking in perspective of female only. If female जब अपनी कास्ट से ऊपर शादी करेगी तो it is hyper. जब अपनी कास्ट से नीचे शादी करेगी तो it is hypo. The reason why we are not talking with respect to male is specifically in relation to caste system. It's because the male do not lose their caste identity. Male will retain their caste identity even after the marriage to a female of whatever caste. But female immediately loses her caste identity because the next generation, अगर एक ब्राह्मण और एक दलित ब्राह्मण woman and a dalit man marry, so the child will inherit the identity of a dalit rather than a brahmin. So female loses the caste identity. The caste is a patriarchal system, definitely. All it out. Highest. मतलब वुमेन जिस कास्ट को बिलोंग करती है उससे हायर कास्ट. ओके, रिचुअल हायरार्की. यस, डन. सो लास्ट वन इज इंसेस्ट टैबू. So in incest taboo, it's a prohibition of sexual relationship with certain blood relatives. That is what is called as incest taboo. So according to almost all the anthropologists, incest taboo is a universal cultural phenomenon. That is, it exists in all the societies. In some way or the other, the degree might be variable. That is, in some societies, एक जो common incest taboo that is in all the societies, you will find that a person can never have sexual relationship with the immediate family members or the nuclear family members, brother, sister, mother, and father. They cannot have sexual relationship with them. But इसके beyond, it's variable. So in some societies, the cousin marriages will be considered to be incestuous. For example, in North India, among Hindus, the cousin marriages might be considered to be incestuous in nature, or blood relatives marriage, or it will be prohibited. But among the Hindus of South India, cousin marriages are not considered to be incestuous in nature. Okay, and they are allowed. Or among Muslims, these cousin marriages are not considered to be incestuous in nature, and they are allowed. So this is, but one particular type of incest taboo is present universally. That is, nuclear family members, and nobody will allow to have sexual relationship, and that's why it is said to be a universal cultural phenomenon. Now there are several theories that explains the reason or the existence of incest taboo as a universal cultural phenomenon. Why do incest taboo is found in all the societies? So first theory is childhood familiarity theory by Westermark. It says, simple one line में, familiarity brings contempt. So just like the idea that we saw कि exogamy की क्या जरूरत है, so he says in the same line that familiarity with the people with whom you have grown up, with whom you have shared your childhood, that familiarity will create disinterestedness for the people with whom you have grown up, and a particular individual will have no curiosity, no sexual attraction for the people, towards the people with whom he or she has grown up. Okay, and that is the reason for incest taboo. So but the question comes, if there is already disinterestedness for the people with whom you have grown up, then why the relationship has been tabooed? It would have happened naturally also. अगर कोई इंटरेस्ट है ही नहीं, so it would have, people would never have chosen the members among their group. So why it was a forbidden behavior then? It would have happened automatically. कि लोग अपने ग्रुप में शादी नहीं करते क्योंकि इंटरेस्ट ही नहीं है. So why it was elevated to the status of a forbidden act? Are you getting this idea? So this is the criticism. If already disinterested, why behaviors have been prohibited? However, there is some evidence to support this also. So in Israel, there was a family structure called as kibbutzim. It was studied by a scholar named Joseph Shepard. So here in kibbutzim, it was a kind of community family system. That is, the parents would be leaving their child in a community house, and they will be going to their fields to work agriculture के लिए. And in that community house, the people of the neighboring region will leave their children at once, and सबके सब एक साथ जाएंगे towards the agricultural field to work. Now, children who grew up in the community house, it was found that none of them basically married when they became adult. मतलब किसी को बचपन का प्यार नहीं हुआ. Okay, that is, the familiarity led to contempt, or it brought, this idea was correct, but again it fails to explain why basically there was already a disinterestedness, why actually it was a prohibited behavior. Moreover, it does not explain the variations in incest taboo behaviors, why in certain societies certain relationships are allowed or considered to be incest while they are considered to be normal in other societies. Okay, now the next theory, ये लिख लिया आप लोगों ने? The next theory is by Sigmund Freud, psychoanalytical theory. ये incest taboo के variations को explain नहीं कर पा रहा कि why in different societies there are different types of incest taboo, degrees are different. Sigmund Freud, so he gave a theory just opposite of what Westermark suggested. He says familiarity brings attempt, not the contempt but attempt. He says that, remember the Oedipus complex, the story of Oedipus. So here he also used this Oedipus complex to explain that there is a high sexual attraction of son towards mother and of daughter towards her father. Okay, I might have discussed this. You cannot dissociate love. Sorry, love and sex are not related to each other. So he says that it's natural. The first love of a son, of a boy, will always be his mother, and the first love of a daughter will always be her father. Okay, and if ever they attempt to have sexual relationship, if ever, then that would bring a disruption in the society. Okay, or that would create a conflict between son and the father. Okay, and this has been actually proven, and that's why in our educational curriculum, sex education was brought as a compulsory subject. For those who have been like ICSE board mate, it is from class 8. In moral sciences, sex education classes are taken, although it usually do not happen, are taken by any teacher, because they are not themselves educated related to sexual issues. So they basically they don't take it also. So, but in certain classes, what actually happens, documentaries, you will find that it has been shown that the parents should become very much careful. So if the age of the child is, say, with respect to the boys, when they experience puberty due to high secretion of sexual hormones, they develop sexual desires. And when they develop sexual desires, since they're not at all aware about it, so what kind of desires are coming up, they become very much restless. And in such case, certain touches, certain kind of caressing gives them some kind of pleasure. And in that case, they might get attracted to a woman with whom they have easy physical access. Physical access means they can touch, they can caress, they can hug. And usually that woman becomes the mother. It might be sounding like, but this is the actual truth. If not guided properly, or if not taught well, this might create a kind of very embarrassing or very awkward situation inside the family. Okay, and that's why sex education is very much necessary, because the children should be aware how to overcome such kind of thoughts, and they should be made aware that these kind of thoughts are very much normal, that will definitely come as you grow up. So there is nothing to get embarrassed or nothing to kind of, and how to handle it, all such kind of things. So this is what Sigmund Freud also suggested, that for a boy, the first love will always be his mother, and for a girl, the first love will always be her father. And due to this, when a boy attempts towards mother or something like that, the father might retaliate, and that might create a kind of tension in the family, due to which incest taboo has been created. Okay, such relationship are prohibited. This is an institutionalized mechanism, institutionalized rules. Such relationship are forbidden, and in order to bring peace. Okay, so such kind of behaviors, that's why they are taboo. Now, it does not explain the incest taboo of brother and sister. It's okay that if a girl gets attracted to the father or if the boy gets attracted to the mother, it might bring some kind of retaliation. But what about the incest taboo of brother and sister? Why it has been prohibited? Okay. See, you guys must be thinking, ye kaisi logical baat hai ki such relationship, how can somebody think of having sexual relationship with parents or siblings? But the thing is, this is how our culture has designed us. We believe that these norms are how a normal family should live. But at some point of time, whatever we are considering as normal would have been designed. Kabhi na kabhi kisi ne soch ke ye culture banaya hoga. So what would have been the reason for it? If we do not believe in the origin of these kind of feelings, that means we are believing that whatever we are doing has been a divine creation. Our culture has been created by God, and we were commanded by the God to live like this. Or else we have to look for the reasons why such behaviors that we consider to be normal actually originated. Okay. Next is family disruption theory by Malinowski. So he says that if there is no incest taboo, it would create a sexual competition in the house itself. And now, due to this sexual competition, there will be rivalry and tension, and the family will disrupt. So in order to curtail the competition, there was incest taboo. So it's a mechanism that was created to prevent any kind of sexual competition between the family members for access to mates. Because if there is a competition between the family members, then the social disruption or family disruption will happen. So in order to make sure that the family remains stable, incest taboo was institutionalized. Okay, so it's okay that incest taboo was institutionalized in order to maintain the stability of the family. But it does not explain why the brother and sister could not marry even when they become adult. तब तो कोई competition नहीं है, direct marriage. Okay, and also again it does not explain the variations. Why variations would come up? The different societies will come up with different kinds of incest taboo rules. Okay, the next theory is cooperation theory or alliance theory by Tyler and Levi-Strauss. So these two scholars suggest that incest taboo was a mechanism that was necessary for creation of larger groups. So they say that certain operations or certain kind of work are there that cannot be done by a single individual member or even by a small family members. Okay, that requires several larger groups or very large group to cooperate. And now in order to cooperate, there should be solidarity, there should be social relationship among them. And here the women exchange came as a mechanism. That is, they will exchange the women between them in order to create solidarity or the social relationship. Remember what Levi-Strauss suggested? It's a pre-social social fact, incest taboo, and that is something that led to the formation of society. A social fact that existed even before the society was there. And sister exchange created confederations. Okay, so why this confederation is required? That because a large number of people's contribution is required for some kind of work, and ये काम एक दो या कुछ लोग नहीं कर सकते. That requires a big cooperation, and for this, incest taboo was there, so that marriage rules were institutionalized that created the laws for exchange of women between the groups, and that would create solidarity between the groups. Just like this, cooperation among family groups. Cooperation among family groups was required for communities to survive. Certain operation necessary for welfare of community. Certain operation necessary for welfare of community could be accomplished by large number of people working together. Could be accomplished by large number of people working together to break down the suspicion, and hostility. Exchange of women between groups was promoted. This led to creation of formal rules of exchange. Okay, but now the question comes कि ठीक है कुछ लोगों के ग्रुप से बाहर शादी कर दो and preserve some people for the group. It can also happen. Why everybody should marry outside the group? Once a particular size of the family or once a particular size of the community has been built up, then some people might be allowed to marry inside the group also. This is one case. Second, marriage can be outside the group, but why prohibit the sexual relationship? Okay, marriage can happen outside the group, but why there is a prohibition of sexual relation between the group members? Okay, after a certain age, the girl can marry or boy can marry somebody from the outside the group, but why are they not allowed to engage in the sexual relationship? They cannot explain this, and that leads to the last theory that is considered to be one of the most appropriate theory, but not completely appropriate. That is the biological theory of incest taboo. So this theory suggests that I'll dictate this discussion. So this theory suggests that it was given by a scholar named T.H. Morgan. Okay, Thomas Hunt Morgan. He suggested that the incest taboo is basically created because earlier Homo sapiens or earlier Homos, they discovered that when people mated inside the group, the offspring had some kind of disabilities. This phenomena we'll read in physical anthropology is called as inbreeding. So due to this inbreeding, there will be what is called as inbreeding depression. There will be high incidences of disability. There can be some kind of genetic disorders. There can be some kind of physical disabilities due to certain genes which are not good in quality or which might bring some kind of diseases. They might multiply in the group, or people might become what is called as homozygous with respect to that genes. You might not be understanding what is homozygous and heterozygous, but we'll talk about it when we'll be going to physical anthropology. We'll be talking about it. But simple logic is that if we mate inside the group, if we mate with the blood relative, so suppose that there is some person in your family, in general, that is having a particular gene which might cause a disease. Now he mates in the same group, and then he will be reproducing. The person with that gene is again means the number of offspring or उससे related जितने भी लोग आएंगे, there will be multiplication of those genes in the same family. So it's better to marry outside one's own group, so that the incidences or the chance of multiplication of those genes gets minimized. Now there is an incidence of Habsburg dynasty. Here there was a king, okay, who basically was married. Inbreeding इतनी ज़्यादा हुई थी that for generations they have married to their relatives. And Charles V, or I think Charles ही नाम था उसका. So he was born with so much disorders or disabilities that when he died, so उसकी body में blood ही नहीं था. His entire liver was kind of ऐसा लग रहा था कि fossilized हो चुका है. The brain was not functional at all. Means a lot of other things in the body. It seemed that as if it has been eaten out. So that's why he is called as the Charles the Bewitched. लोगों को लगा कि इसमें कितने ज़्यादा टोने टोटके कर दिए गए हैं कि इसकी बॉडी में कुछ बचा ही नहीं है. But the real reason for this was that he was a product of generations of inbreeding due to royal endogamy. So ये लोग blood relatives में शादी कर रहे थे in order to preserve the purity of blood. And the same is the case with British royalty. Okay, color blindness. Sorry, anemia. Yes, sickle cell anemia है. So there also due to large amount of inbreeding in last 100 years. I think Queen Elizabeth or some queen, she was carrying some disease for a particular some genes for a particular disease. She entered into the royalty, and then due to continuous inbreeding in last 100 years, 20 members of the British royalty were suffering from that disease. Okay, so it was founded or it was understood by the earlier homos or earlier sapiens that if we marry or if we produce or mate with the members of the one's own group, the next generation will be suffering from a lot of disabilities, and that's why they prohibited any such kind of matings. So now the question comes that whether they had some kind of knowledge or not, or this kind of knowledge or not, कि ऐसा होता होगा. So several ethnographic studies, for example, a study by William Durham says that yes, they had this knowledge. He studied a lot of simple societies from Australia, Aborigines, and he found that yes, they have this kind of knowledge wherein they prohibit any kind of marriage inside their group. Remember Fraser, totemism and exogamy? Due to belief in soul, they believe that their pregnancy of the woman is because of a common totem. So what totemism was doing was actually preventing inbreeding among them. Okay, a group having the same totem, they are all related to each other. They are considered as blood relatives, and that's why they are supposed to marry outside the group. And also a study by Raymond Firth among Tikopia. So he finds that these people, Tikopia, they have a belief that if you marry inside one's own group, in such a case, the child will become very much diseased. The child will die out. He will perish, or it will. But they have some kind of spiritual belief related to it. Maybe he usko curse ho jayega, and he might be bewitched, or he might be attacked by some kind of sorcerers or some kind of spirits and all that stuff. जिसकी वजह से he will never be able to survive. So basically, they consider it as a sin. And if you violate this norm, the next generation is not going to survive. So that clearly shows that these people used to have the knowledge of biological disadvantage of marrying inside one's own group, for which they institutionalize certain rules. But this also does not explain the variation why in certain societies cousin marriages are prohibited and not prohibited among the some societies. कहीं पे cousin marriage allowed है, कहीं पे नहीं है. It's like this. According to T.H. Morgan, incest taboo emerged because early Homo sapiens noticed that abnormal offspring were born from incestuous unions. One study compared children in incestuous mating. One study compared children of incestuous mating with that of non-incestuous. It was found that children of incestuous matings had greater abnormalities. William Durham's cross-cultural survey suggests that the people of simple societies also had the knowledge. Of biological disadvantage due to incestuous mating. Next, according to Raymond Firth, study of Tikopia, he found that the people believed in disease called as Mara. According to Tikopians, the unions of close relatives, bear their doom. Union of close relatives bear their doom or their death knell. Offspring will be weak, children will be weak and eventually die. So one more thing, this was not Charles V, it was after Charles V, the next king, that is Philip II was the name of the king who succeeded Charles V. Okay, so these are the laws of marriage. Now the second one is, next topic is choice of spouses. Although they are more or less similar, okay, but there is a different heading that is given in your syllabus, so we'll have to cover it accordingly. So choice of spouses, so there are three major mechanisms in choosing the spouses. The first one is proscriptive rules, that prohibits आप इससे शादी नहीं कर सकते. That will tell you with whom you cannot marry. And in the proscriptive rules comes incest taboo. ठीक है. Then there is prescriptive rules. So that tells us when or whom a person can marry. ठीक है. So that is related to endogamy and exogamy. And the last one is preferential rules. So this is an extension of the prescriptive rules, wherein a particular set of persons are basically designated as preferred mates. In group maybe there are certain mates that are preferred one. Okay, that is the preferential route. So it can be in the form of cousin marriages, or in the form of levirate and sororate, or in the form of uncle-niece marriage. Okay, preferred mates, cousin, levirate, sororate, and uncle-niece. So we'll see this preferential because we have seen endo, exo, and incest taboo. So let's see this cousin marriages. So cousin marriages are of mainly two types. The first one is cross cousin, and the second is parallel cousin marriages. Okay. So here in cross cousin का मतलब क्या होता है? That is, cross cousin means the cousins of siblings of opposite sex. So from, for example, if I see from my perspective, my cross cousin from my father's side will be बुआ के बच्चे. That is, father's sister's children will be cross cousin from my father's side, and cross cousin from my mother's side will be मामा के बच्चे. Okay. And parallel cousin means the children of siblings of same sex. So from my father's side, my parallel cousin will be चाचा के बच्चे. Okay. And from my mother's side, my parallel cousin will be मौसी के बच्चे. Okay. So that is cross cousins, children of siblings of opposite sex, and parallel is children of siblings of same sex. So in this cross cousin marriage, if we see this, this is one cross cousin marriage. See, these are brother and sister. Now the children of brother and sister, they have married. Now in this case, this is called as a kind of direct or continuous form of cross cousin marriage. That is, the flow of the girl is in one direction. In the initial generation also, the woman moved from this family to this family, and again the woman will be moving from this family to the other family. In one direction only they are moving, but there can be asymmetrical also, as if so here in one generation the movement of woman was from this family to this side, but in the next generation the movement of woman was from this family to the other side. Okay. हाँ, इंटरप्रेट कैसे करना? सिंपल सी बात है, ये मेल है, ये फीमेल है, ये मैरिज है, और इसका मतलब होता है ब्रदर एंड सिस्टर. As simple as that. Okay, ये standard notations है. So here brother and sister, their respective spouses. So this man has a wife, this woman has a husband, their children. Now the children of the brother and sister, they have married. So this generation, the movement of women was from say this family is A, this family is B, towards this direction, and the next generation, the movement of women was in this direction. Okay. While in the earlier example, the movement of women was always from A to B. In first generation also, the woman moved from this family to other family. In second generation also, the same was happening. Okay. So this is a cross cousin marriage. कोई doubt है इसमें? Okay. वैसे UPSC have stopped asking such kind of questions. Although it's in our syllabus, so you should be aware कि ये सब होता क्या है. But I don't believe कि they will be asking such questions from now on कि cross cousin marriage बताओ या parallel cousin marriage बताओ. Now, why this kind of exchanges do happen in certain societies? Why cross cousin marriages or some cousin marriages will be there? It's usually believed that sometimes there might be very high bride price or dowry. So in such cases, what might happen that the societies might exchange women. You give somebody or a woman from one group moves from one direction to another or one family to another, and in the next generation the family will reciprocate by giving back the woman. Okay. Or in several instances the relationship becomes so entangled that automatically means it's difficult to distinguish between the cross cousins कि वो maternal side के हैं कि paternal side के हैं. So for example, in this case, if suppose in one generation means एक same generation what is happening, cross cousin is marriage is happening, but in both the sides. एक side से लड़की is coming and the other side the one girl will be going to that family, immediate exchange. Now the children of these two couples, okay, the children of these two couples, suppose if they have a boy and a girl, so इसका जो लड़का है means the say this boy and a girl, for this boy the mama, for this boy the mama will be same as fufa. Are you getting this? Yes, for this boy mama कौन होगा? मम्मी का भाई, and fufa कौन होगा? बुआ का husband. They both are the same persons, right or wrong? So this mama is mother's brother and fufa कौन है? Father's sister's husband. So they are the same person. So here it's very difficult to distinguish, or it becomes impossible to distinguish between several relatives because of exchange of women or cross cousin marriages. Okay. So here what I'm trying to say that it usually happens if the bride price or dowry is very high. In that case, cross cousin marriages will happen. एक generation से basically this one girl will go from this family to other, the other girl will come to this family. Okay. Exchange of women in the same generation or exchange of women in the alternative generation might happen. एक generation में इस family से गए, next generation the other family will give back the girl. Okay. So this is somewhat, or in later cases you will find that for example in South India, cousin marriages are very common. That is to maintain solidarity between families, or to increase the solidarity between the already existing relatives. Okay. Now, the case of parallel cousin marriages. Yeah. A towards B. अरे उल्टा लिख दिया होगा. Yeah, सही तो लिखा है. Sorry. This brother and sister are there. Okay. So A family को belong करती है woman. Now married to somebody from B family. And in this generation also, if we leave this, so again the woman from this family will be moving towards B. A towards B. Okay. So parallel cousin marriages. So here in parallel cousin marriages, you'll find that the children of siblings of same sex, they marry each other. So these are found, it's relatively a rare phenomena compared to the cross cousin marriages in India as well as in the world. But there are certain societies, certain communities that practice parallel cousin marriages also. In India, certain tribal people, they follow parallel cousin marriage, and also Muslims, they follow parallel cousin marriages. Okay, so for example, Arabs, they follow or they practice parallel cousin. Then a tribe, Riyangs of Tripura, they also practice parallel cousin marriages. So according to Peoples of India project, if we see the overall communities that practice parallel cousin marriage, they are approximately 383 in number. Okay, while compared to cross cousin marriages, it is 2368 communities. They practice cross cousin marriages. Okay. Now, whenever there is a kind of cousin marriages or cousin marriages are allowed in the society, in such societies you will find that the cousins, they have a kind of joking relationship between them. They are treated as potential mates, and they might be allowed or they might be permitted to engage into a flirtatious relationship with each other. Okay, or a joking relationship that projects them as the potential mates in the future. Okay. Now the next one is levirate and sororate. What is levirate and sororate? Here in levirate, what happens is, if a husband dies, if a woman is married to a man and the husband dies, then woman is married to the brother of the dead man. That phenomenon is called as levirate. So it is represented like this. This person died, and the woman will be married to a brother of the dead husband. This is called as levirate. And same, just opposite of it is called as sororate. So due to the death of the wife, the husband might marry the younger sister of the wife. That is called as sororate. In all the societies where levirate and sororate is practiced, you will find existence of polygynous relationship. I'm being specific, polygynous, not polyandrous, because sororate can also be practiced in certain cases where the wife is not able to give birth to a child or is infertile. In that case, man again has got the right to marry the younger sister. Okay, so why this levirate and sororate happens? I'm just listing out some of the reasons. Okay, why levirate and sororate? First, levirate provides support to the widow, and helps in maintaining the dignity of the widow woman. It also provides continuity of lineage if a man dies childless. Remember, Nuers, if a man dies childless. Second, levirate and sororate re-establish the bonds of kinship that is threatened by the death of one of the spouses. Okay, third, levirate helps in retention of rights and obligation. Levirate helps in retention of rights and obligation within one group. Because if the widow goes back, she will take away the properties of her dead husband along with her children. Last, sororate helps a man who has handed or who has given a high bride price to the privilege of service he is entitled to. That is, the man must have given bride price if the wife dies. So in that case, this might happen that he cannot afford to pay another bride price. In that case, the other family, they will give them another girl or younger sister. Okay. Now the functions of marriage. You can remember the function of marriage with an acronym. These: biological, economic, educational, and social. So biological function is, that is, to satisfy the sexual need or biological needs, and also forms permanent mating pairs, okay, who have exclusive sexual rights. In general, I'm talking about, not exceptional cases, but in general. Okay. Economic, to create a group which has specific division of labor based on gender. So men do some kind of work, the women will be doing some kind of work, and this is how the entire group functions. Okay, so this marriage is something that will define rights and duties that for every person who is participating into the marriage. The girl is supposed to do so and so kind of work, the boy will be supposed to. So suppose if there is a traditional patriarchal family, so the girl is supposed to take care of the household work, and the man is supposed to take care of the material needs he has to earn, okay, in order for that marriage relationship to be successful, to be stable. Okay, so this is due to marriage. The third one, education. So marriage is the primary step for creation of family, which is the first educational institution, or this is the place where a child gets the basic education, okay, or enculturation starts at the household itself. And the last is the social function. So due to this marriage, new kinsmen are acquired, so new relatives are created. Okay, 7 functions by Edmund Leach, you can write nothing to explain here. According to Edmund Leach, marriage can, but not always accomplish following functions. First, establish legal father of a woman's children and a legal mother of a man's child. Second, give either or both the spouses a monopoly on sexuality. Third, give either or both the spouses right to labor. Fourth, give either or both the spouses right over others' property. Next, establish a joint fund of family for benefit of children. And last, establish a socially significant relationship between spouses and their relatives. Huh? That's 6 here. Okay. The next is marriage payments, or the economic aspects of marriage. So here, the 2 significant forms of payment related to marriage are bride price and dowry. So here, initially the term bride price was used, but later on it has been replaced by the term bride wealth. Okay, because bride price seems to be too much derogatory. It seems as if the bride is being bought in the market. So that's why the term has been replaced by the term bride wealth. But as per this bride price or bride wealth, whatever we call, it means there will be some economic transaction, or some economic goods and material will be moving from the groom's house or groom's side towards the bride's family. Okay, so groom's family will be paying towards the bride's family. Usually you will find such societies where the woman's contribution towards the labor is high, or the children participation in the economy or subsistence is very high. In that case, the societies do have the practice of bride price. So why? Because in order to compensate the loss of labor that the woman's family might experience due to her marriage, so that will be to compensate it. Okay, so and also children, in contribution of children in economy is high. In that case, by paying the bride price, man gets a right over the children that will be produced by the woman. So man is paying the woman to reproduce for him. Why? Because these number of children that will be reproduced by the woman will help in economy, will provide labor to the family, and that's why the bride price will be in such kind of societies. Moreover, you will find that bride price provides a kind of stability to the society where women, or stability to the marriage where women cannot terminate marriage as per her own wish. Why? Because the family will have to return the bride price back. So in such cases, the woman cannot terminate the marriage. Okay, or vice versa is also possible. If a man terminates the marriage with his whims and fancies, so in that case, that money that was given to the woman's family as a bride price will act as an insurance or a cushion for the woman's future stability, because the man will not get the bride price back. If the woman is at no fault, in that case, he will lose the bride price, and that bride price will be acting as a insurance for the woman. Okay. And the third case, you will see that in societies where there is a bride price, the kith and kins, the relatives, they come together, they join together to create. Remember the Melanesia big man? So the relatives, they will be joining together to collect the bride price for the groom, so that he gets to marry a woman. And gradually, what happens? One woman will come, she will hurt the pig. Then all the relatives will collectively create or accumulate more wealth, will pay for another wife, so on and so forth. And that will help increase the status of the person in the society, or will help him achieve the status of a big man. So this bride price basically brings several relatives together in order to basically create or accumulate the fund necessary for the bride price of a man. Okay. And it is found that this bride price also in certain societies that a family gets by marrying a daughter will be used by the family members to get a bride for the bride's brother. So it is moving like this. So one woman will go, the family receives the bride price, and they will be using the bride price to again get a woman from another family for the brother. Okay, so these are a lot of functions that bride price does. And compared to dowry, bride price used to be a more prominent phenomena, specifically in primitive societies. But due to globalization and due to contact with the patriarchal societies or patriarchal mindset, the dowry has become a more prominent phenomena gradually. Although there is no authentic data or records for this, but yes, we do have authentic data or records wherein the bride price was explained or was kind of highlighted as a more prominent phenomena compared to dowry. Okay, in fact, Abibi Northeast, you will find that I got a chance to attend my friend's wedding. So he's from Assam. So here I was kind of, although it was not a bride price or dowry specifically, but there was a lot of material goods that were given from the groom side to the bride's family. A lot of jewelry, a lot of sari and all, and not a single expensive material gift was given from the bride side to the groom's family. And it's very common among Northeast communities. Okay, means I'm not aware about majority of the communities, but I have attended 2 or 3 weddings there, and in all those communities I have experienced that there was a larger flow of goods, material goods, specifically from the groom side towards the bride side, and not much significant. But UP Bihar, here you will see it's just opposite dowry. It's not to be taken as if dowry is bad or good or bride price is bad or good. I'll just talk about the dowry aspect also. It has some kind of cultural relevance. Abhi ke time pe wo khatam ho chuka hai, but it had some kind of cultural relevance at some point of time. Okay, now the dowry. So here it is a material payment from bride's family towards groom's family. So according to certain scholars, like Manusmriti and इसमें लिखा हुआ that it's more like a religious duty of a bride's family to pay the groom's family. It was more like a religious duty. Moreover, it is some scholars like SJ Tambia. He says that in the ancient societies there was a kind of practice that is called as Stridhan. That is when the girls were married. So since they had inheritance rights, so in that case, after the marriage, the mobile goods, maybe some jewelry or gold or silver or something like that, or movable goods were given to the girl as because of her inheritance rights. Okay, the father will say कि ये property का हिस्सा belongs to you. So usually the cattle, because they were movable, or jewelry, or some other movable goods will be given, while the immovable goods were kept for the son. Okay, and this Stridhan actually later on, it's believed, transformed into a compulsory practice. Initially, it was a voluntary practice or voluntary, as if the father passes on the inheritance rights, whatever the woman or the girl inherits from the father, the share of her property to the girl. But later on, ये एक obligation बन गया. Okay, and it was mainly followed by the higher caste. Just like this, in India, the dowry has become a matter of religious duty. It has created an atmosphere in which women are seen as property. Women are seen as property, governed first by their father, and later by their husband, According to SJ Tambia, Manusmriti sanctioned both bride wealth and dowry. SJ Tambia, Manusmriti sanctioned both dowry and bride wealth, but dowry had greater prestige. Bride wealth was restricted to lower caste. In ancient India, women had inheritance rights. Okay. She inherited the movable goods or movable property after her marriage. In bracket, you can write Stridhan. She inherited the movable goods and properties after her marriage. It is believed that this inheritance rights, which were once voluntary, were transformed into a mandatory practice. ठीक है. Then एक और scholar है McDonald. According to McDonald, dowry was practiced when girls suffered from some bodily defects. Okay. Next point. Dowry is usually prevalent in societies where women contribute less to the economy. where women contribute less to the economy, it is usually practiced to provide economic and financial security to the married woman. Economic and financial security to the married woman. So there are two anthropological understanding of dowry and bride price. Okay, or two models to explain the distribution of dowry and bride price. The first model is called as the labor value model, which we have already understood that in a society where the woman will be contributing more to the economy, there will be bride price. While if in a society there is more contribution of men towards the economy and women contribute less to the economy or the subsistence, there will be dowry. So that is what is called as the labor value. So the labor value will decide the kind of economic transaction that will happen during marriage, and this idea was given by Bosarab. Okay, this is the first idea. The second idea is female competition model. This is a very relevant idea, and it's an idea that is given by certain scholars who believe in Darwinism or who believe in Dawkins' idea of the selfish gene. So they say that female competition model kind of assumes that here there will be, or means in every society there is a fight or a competition for the fitter mates. So it can be there will be competition between the female for fitter males, or there can be competition between the males for fitter females. So in society, the kind of competition that exists, if there is a competition between the males for fitter females, then the society will have bride price. While if there is a competition between the females for fitter males, then the society will have dowry. Okay, now why this dowry and bride price, all this comes due to this competition? They say that every parent or every individual wants their genes to reproduce as much as possible, their genes to be preserved as much as possible. So for their entire life as a parent, I'll make sure I'll accumulate the resources. And I'll accumulate resources for what purpose? As our parents are doing. They will be accumulating the resources with one major goal. You will also, when you get married, you will accumulate resource with one major goal. कि अपने बच्चे की शादी करनी है. You can think about this, that it's true for our parents also. They sacrifice their desires, they sacrifice their own aspirations. They won't be spending a lot of money on, say, cars or something like that with an excuse कि बच्चे की शादी पे भी तो पैसे खर्च करने हैं. Specifically in a society here, patriarchal society for girls, जहाँ पे dowry है, या फिर bride price में वैसा होगा. So they say that it is because the parents, it's not that there is love, altruism, nothing like that. It's because the parents wants their genes to survive. Unconsciously this is there. So in that case, if they have accumulated the resource, so they can choose the fittest or the best possible mate for their children, and that will make sure that their children are able to reproduce successfully. And when their children are able to reproduce successfully, they will be their genes will actually survive or remain on Earth. So इस intention से they accumulate resources. पहले आप ये दोनों लिख लो, then I talk about third model. First is labor value model given by Bosarab. Bride price in society, price practiced in societies where female contribute highly towards subsistence. Dowry features in societies with low female contribution, and high level of dependence, of women on men's economic support. This model views dowry as a payment made by women for a secure future. Second, female competition model. The female competition model assumes that in Homo sapiens, the behavior associated with pair formation can be interpreted as reproductive tactics. They interpret bias in marriage transaction due to competition for marriage partners. High prevalence of bride wealth suggests that men compete for wives, whereas dowry reflects competition of females for husband. Right? Regardless of whether dowry or bride wealth is paid, parents put their utmost effort utmost effort in amassing the wealth and negotiating the marriage contract These facts are consistent with the generalization that humans invest in their offspring over many years. Individuals allocate resources so as to maximize their own genetic representation in future generation. Next point, resources will flow to dowry or bride price based on where there is a greater reproductive benefit. It is a kind of investment by the parents. To produce more grandchildren. Okay, it's a mechanism. The selfish genes, they want to be available, they want to live, and that's why wherever there will be a greater reproductive benefit, the parents will be making sure the flow of the wealth goes that way. So if there is a greater reproductive benefit by giving the money to the daughter, or from the side of daughter to the side of the husband, so they will pay it in the form of dowry. And if there is a greater reproductive benefit in case of investing the money on the son, ठीक है, किसान को पैसा देंगे and son will pay it to the groom bride's family, so they'll pay it in the form of bride wealth. But the major aim is to get the reproductive benefits. So, and this is something that they suggest that the entire society, the entire world is accumulating or amassing the wealth is for reproductive benefits. That is our selfish genes. We want that genes to remain or to live, and we know more wealth or the more resources that we obtain or we have is basically providing us a security to make sure that our genes will survive. So it's a mechanism or it's a kind of investment that is done by the grandparents for reproductive benefit or to produce as many grandchildren as possible. And इसी का एक extension है, that is what is called as polygyny threshold model. Just listen to this idea, एकदम same है but थोड़ा सा अलग तरीके से define किया है. It says females will definitely want polygyny for reproductive benefit, isn't it? Male's reproductive success will be through polygyny. If a male has जितने ज़्यादा wives, as many children as possible, and then the greater reproductive success. But this is what males want, polygyny. But it is not universal because not every female wants it. The female also should agree to it. Only then the polygyny can exist. So not every female wants it. When is the case when the female will also want polygyny to happen? So this is what it tries to explain. When there is a male that controls extraordinary resources that makes him differentially attractive, in that scenario the female will also want to have or enter into a polygynous relationship. The resources that are necessary for survival controlled by men makes him differentially attractive for the female. Okay, and that will make sure that the woman will get attracted to that person. But imagine a society in which there is one man who has wealth, you can say 5x or say 5 crore, and then there is another man who has 1x or 1 crore wealth. So since the wealth of this person is 5 times, he can have 5 wives. But यहाँ पे एक problem हो रही है. Each wife gets the equal number of wealth as is available to one wife of this person. आप समझ रहे हो? If a person has 5 crore and he marries 5 wives, or he has 5 wives, then each wife gets access to 1 crore only, as compared to the man who has 1 crore and he marries only one woman. So differential attractiveness in this case goes away. क्योंकि 5 लड़कियों से शादी कर लेगा तो एक वाइफ के पास उतना ही पैसा आएगा effectively. What's the point of this? So here in such case, this is what is called as ideal polygyny or ideal pre-polygyny, and due to which attractive differentiation or differential attractiveness of that person goes away. कुछ भी extra नहीं मिल रहा किसी woman को. But since the father of the woman will not invest in this case, कि इस आदमी से शादी करने के लिए जो कि multiple wives रख सकता है, इस आदमी से शादी करने के लिए he will be providing dowry to this person. No, here instead this man will use his wealth to marry as many women as possible. Are you getting this idea? यहाँ पे the female's parents will not be giving the money to this man because as many as wife he will have, the wealth will get redistributed or kind of divided. तो उस केस में कोई differential attractiveness है ही नहीं. If he marries 6 women, so effectively और इस आदमी के पास सिर्फ एक wife है, so overall the net worth of each wife or the property that is available to each wife will be less than this person. So there is no point of female's parents to pay dowry. But here, in order to ensure his reproductive success, he will use his wealth to get the female. So यहाँ पे this person will use his wealth and pay it in the form of a bride price in order to increase or maximize his reproductive success. But if we are living in a stratified monogamous society, the society is stratified and monogamous, and again the case is a man having 5x and another man having 1x, that is 5 crore and 1 crore. In such a scenario, the man can marry only one woman. So यहाँ पे this definitely makes this person differentially attractive. And here the father of the woman will be ready to pay dowry to this person. अब यहाँ पे इसको खर्च करने की जरूरत नहीं है. but he will get dowry in return for marrying, because this is providing a greater access to the resources, to the essential resource for survival to that woman. And here the father of that girl will have a greater reproductive benefit if the girl marries this person who has a greater access to the resources. तब उस woman के बच्चे will be able to survive, will be able to compete better than any other woman's children. So here there is a more reproductive benefit with respect to this person compared to paying dowry to this person. Are you getting this idea? It ultimately boils down to the idea of reproductive benefit or reproductive success. प्रेस्टीज इकोनॉमी, हाँ वहां पे भी ऐसा ही होगा. प्रेस्टीज डिस्ट्रीब्यूट नहीं हो रहा, बट द थिंग इज प्रेस्टीज आर the capacity to accumulate resources at some point of time. After that you will be redistributing, but you have the prestige, you have higher mobility, the first say on any decision in the society. इतना मैंने थोड़ा सा trivialize करके 5x और 1x में बता दिया, but it can be in any form, any resource that is necessary for survival. It can be in the form of power also. आपकी survival को ensure करा रहा है. Okay, so these are something that will, मतलब ultimately it's the reproductive benefit. This theory says it's the reproductive benefit that will decide the flow of resources from one family to the other. किस साइड फ्लो करेगा, that depends. जहां पे ज्यादा reproductive benefit होगा. So here in this case when polygamy was allowed, ideal free polygamy, the woman family will find no reproductive benefit because multiple wives हो जाएंगी and the resource get distributed, so no dowry. But male को अपने reproductive benefit advantage चाहिए था, so he will use his wealth to pay the money to the bride's family and get as many partners as possible using his wealth for his reproductive advantage. So यहाँ पे money will be used for reproductive advantage of the man. But here in a monogamous society, the same people, it will be more advantageous for the female's family to pay this man dowry, क्योंकि उनकी reproductive success, उनकी बेटी की reproductive success will be more in this case. Okay. So this is what is called as the polygamy threshold theory. It's an extension of the same that we have seen, but एक अलग interpretation है, not required. कि आपको लिखने की कोई जरूरत नहीं है. समझ लो ये show off था. Okay. So last topic. उसके बाद we will be seeing live-in relationship in the next class. So long-term decline in marriage. So marriage as an institution in the present context or in the modernity has seen a decline in its importance, in its stability. So importance also gone and stability is also gone. So you must have got the pressure from your parents कि शादी कर लो and all that, and some people might have said कि अब आजादी ही मेरी दुल्हन है. So this is something that we will be, or we are like adamant to speak out कि शादी वादी से क्या होगा and all that stuff. We usually engage, means आप लोग दिवाली पे कुछ लोग घर इसलिए नहीं गए कि शायद घर वाले शादी की बात करना करें. So the importance we do not, but आप देखो कि एक जनरेशन पहले or maybe 2 generations back, as soon as the boy or girls, means in case of boys he crosses 18 or 19, career stable कुछ बात नहीं करते and everything will be like sorted. 18 19 20 शादी हो गई. And your parents, you must have heard that dialogue also कि तुम्हारी उम्र में तो हम 2 बच्चों के बाप हो गए थे and we had no degrees and all, still we were able to take care of you. तुम शादी करो, बच्चे पैदा करो, we'll take care of it, right? So but in the present generation and maybe in the coming generation, the importance of marriage will go away, and moreover stability is also under a question mark. The rates of divorce have risen up and rates of marital conflicts have risen up, and there are a lot of factors which are currently at work that has led to this decline in the importance and the stability of marriage. And these factors prominently are first economic factors. So in economic factors, the first factor is increased cost of living. Okay, so अभी अपने घर का खर्चा तो चल नहीं रहा है, एक और रिस्पांसिबिलिटी कैसे ले लूं? And second is increased cost of wedding, and this is something इंडिया के लिए तो बहुत ज्यादा फिट बैठता है. A man or a normal middle class person spends his entire life to accumulate the wealth which he will be spending for his children or for his child's wedding. And अगर उसने फैमिली प्लानिंग नहीं की है तो उस केस में उसकी सारी वेल्थ इनफैक्ट वो डेट ले लेगा उल्टा कि बच्चे की शादी पे खर्च करना है. And this has created, means suppose करो कि if there is some unfortunate child who has lost his parents at a very young age, or there is no family support system or social support system is there, in such case nobody can even dare कि 10-15-20 लाख रुपए शादी पे खर्च किया जा सके. एक छोटा सा फंक्शन करना is also becoming very costly, and that's why it's better to avoid it. Next is the change in the status of women or changing gender roles. So due to this, here the women have got a greater economic opportunity, greater economic empowerment in the present time, due to which first thing that has happened is marriage is delayed. Okay, due to greater economic empowerment of the women. Moreover, in the initial time, since women were highly dependent on men for their economic survival, क्योंकि women का economic role was very limited, or any kind of role that was remunerating in nature, कि जिससे salary मिलेगी, कुछ पैसा मिलेगा, that was very limited or not available. But now, when they have started earning the money, for them marriage seems to be a very foolish option. कि पैसे भी कमा रहे हो और पति का सुनना भी पड़ेगा, क्या फायदा? So let it be, earn the money, live a free life. So this is something that is being seen as a trend among the women. That initially we were trapped by the social structure, which did not give us the remunerative or monetary power, but now we do not have such kind of restrictions over us. And when we are economically free, why to enter into such kind of traps, which might be because of marriage? So free raho, live freely as long as possible. So due to which either marriage is getting delayed, or women prefer not to enter into a permanent social contract like marriage that might curb their freedom. Okay, beside this, especially in service sectors, the economic power, especially in service sector, the economic power is shifting towards women. Marriage seems to be a poor option for women. Seems to be a poor option for women. The third reason is the moral decline. This is the idea that is given by new right groups. So they say that the modernity has led to a decline in morality. The moral values have become weaker. And in this modernity period of phase of modernity, people find it very hard, or they express their inability to commit to a single person, which marriage as an institution legally and socially requires. Okay, and here the best evidence for this is the Supreme Court has to recognize that adultery is no more a criminal offense. So that actually shows the decline in morality. Morality in a single court, because that varies from people to people and culture to culture. But still, the modernity or the time of modernity that makes it difficult, or people have expressed their inability to commit to a single person, due to which they decide not to get married at all, because they will not be at least forced legally or socially to commit to a single person. Okay, marriage करते ही नहीं उसको. So they blame it on the decline of morality due to modernization. Despite this, decline of marriage is blamed on moral decline. Is blamed on moral decline due to modernity. It results in inability. It results in inability of people to commit. Inability of the people to commit. The next, postmodern opinion क्या है? They believe that the postmodern society is consumer-based society, and we have a lot of choices. It has provided individual greater choices and freedom, and that's why, since there are greater choices and freedom, there is less stigma attached to cohabitation, or what is called as live-in relationship, because we want that choices to remain in our hand, but at the same time, we don't want to miss the existing opportunity. So if you are having, or if you are dating somebody, in both the cases, be it a boy or be it a girl, okay, in both the cases, the girl and the boy who are dating each other, they basically, you can say, are not very much sure that whether this person is the one. This is a lifetime spent ho jayegi. Okay, they still are not sure, or they will not be sure for lifetime. They have means as if there is a Tinder, okay, and there is several options of right swipe or left swipe, whatever. So in that case, we have choices, and these choices have given us a sense of freedom also. But choices to ठीक है, but जो अभी opportunity है, why to miss it? Maybe this person might be the case, जो lifetime साथ दे जाए. So in such case, they would prefer a safer option, but they won't commit for lifetime, yet take a risk with that person. That is, cohabitation or the live-in relationship has been, the stigma attached to this cohabitation has been taken away, but the choices are still open. कि अगर किसी point of time पे the other person kind of cheats or misbehaves, that person will be kicked out, and फिर से Tinder install करेंगे, paid version लेंगे, and we'll look for other alternatives. Okay, so this is what postmodernists, they believe that the postmodern world is a consumer world which has provided us choice and individual freedom, due to which the long-term commitment has gone away, and people basically are moving towards live-in relationships or cohabitation. Despite this, the decline in marriage is due to postmodern consumer society. Postmodern consumer society characterized by greater individual choice, and freedom. There is less social stigma. Attached to cohabitation. Okay. Next point. People are less likely to get married. Because the structural changes have made life more uncertain. Okay. So these are some of the major aspects of or factors that has led to decline in marriage. But for those who are still hopeful, or they are kind of wishing that we will be marrying someday and we'll have ek sapno ki rani or say shehzada and all, so in that case there is some positive aspects also. So even if there is a decline in marriage as an institution, it still remains one of the most important institutions in the present time also. So the reason is, hope yahan pe, that the first reason is that the most households are still headed by married couples. So sense of relief. The next is that even if people might end up in the live-in relationships, okay, they get married later, or the ultimate aim is to get married. Okay, despite this, couple may cohabit, but this is normally before getting married. The next one is most people idealize marriage as one of the most stable, permanent, and promising relation. So even if they have some uncertainty, idealization of marriage is still there, that one day I will find that person, जिसके साथ मेरे को stability वाली feeling आएगी and I will marry that person. So idealization is still there, so that's why the importance is still there, means the target for that will always be there in the mind. And the last one, although the marriage have become uncertain or unstable, remarriages are also on rise. So एक divorce होता है तो दूसरी शादी पहले से तैयार रहती है. So that is, remarriage has increased, which shows that people still value the institution of marriage. marriage. So that's it for today. Thank you so much. Tomorrow we'll talk about live-in relationship and its anthropological perspective. That's it for today.